Don't look at me like a criminal. I'm just a chick trying to find my way. I know that time's so critical, but I'm gonna save the world another day. Cause I got a lot to learn, lots of places to see. And this is
Gonna start? Hello everyone. Hi. Hello, hello. Hello Riverdale. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Yeah, are you excited for today's panel, for the discussion?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, well, it's going to be really fun today. We have a cool discussion that's going to go on. We have some very influential, cool people here that's going to take the time to introduce themselves. So definitely take advantage of taking everything in, but most importantly, asking questions. It's for you, this panel. It's to giving you the opportunity to ask questions, to be able to be a little bit more informed. Nothing is a dumb question, so please don't be shy. I know we only have an hour together, so... Mark's here. Okay, let's stop. Whoa, Mark! let's yay, Mark! We're gonna wait for the last panel, right? So yes, as I was saying, definitely take the time to ask the questions that you need. Nothing's a silly question. I think it's important that we highlight the strength of leadership and the strength of arts. So I'm here on behalf of Overture with the Arts to be able to just be your moderator and your host. So thank you so much for having me here. I'm super, super excited. I'm just really excited to be amongst all these wonderful, strong people that's just going to influence you today and be able for you to leave with some deposit of positivity and some vision if you were looking for questions. Cool? Cool. So we're going to start from here and then we're going to go all the way down for everyone to have the opportunity to introduce themselves. So let's start off with Aiza. She is quite the royster. So go, girl.
Hi everyone, my name is Aiza Ntibarikure. I am a singer-songwriter and actress, and I've been doing this for many years now, and I'm just really happy to be here. How about you?
Hey, hi. Hi, my name is Lateef Martin. I'm an illustrator and writer. I have a transmedia company called Miscellaneum Studios, and I write a comic book called Zyle. It's set in Montreal 7 years after a zombie apocalypse. And we're also working on a video game for it.
Cool.
Hi guys, my name is Chandni. I'm a hip hop dancer and I'm also a competitive hip hop coach.
Hi everybody, my name is Mark. I am an artist in general. I'm also an arts administrator and I work for a native owned and operated company that does film, television, magazines, and video games.
Nice.
Res and minority. That's it. Sweet.
Yeah. So as you can see, we have quite a diversity here, and the point of this is obviously the panel to ask some questions. So I'm interested, one of my questions when I read up on all of you guys was just the fact that you're from Montreal, some of you have came from Toronto, but how was it to break out in your field? You know what I mean? Like, I want to know most importantly, when did you know that this is what you wanted to do and you were going to pursue? You know, oftentimes we're asked to be a doctor, to be a nurse, to be a teacher, and all that. But how did you know that, okay, this was your passion and you want to kick that off?
Do I start?
Yeah, I'm looking at you, so
okay,
go ahead.
Okay. So I was doing a lot of musical theater in high school, and by the time it came to graduate and pick a program I wanted to get into, I realized I loved performing so much, and I figured if they had an acting program in Montreal that I would go to it, and I found the Dawson Theater program. I applied for it, I got in, and that's just what solidified my desire to pursue a career in the arts. But I must say that the love for it started much younger. Even in first grade, I was maybe like six years old, and I was like, I really dig this thing. I think I want to do this, but I'm not sure how. And it's only after working on the musicals that I realized, okay, this is really something I want to do for the rest of my life.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I've been drawing since I was a kid, but I never really expected to be drawing comics as a career. I kind of fell into that. I originally actually started to want to work in film, but as video games came up and I've had a lot of stories to tell, I figured video games was a great avenue to tell my stories. And when it comes to video games in particular, it's all about just doing the work. Playing the games, learning about it, talking to people, going up to events, networking, meeting people, not being shy. That's a huge, it's really important to meet other people and, share your ideas and try out stuff. So it's always important to put yourself out there. It's great to work on your craft and it's super important. And I can't stress enough how important it is to try different things, you might have one love, but trying different things also informs that passion you have. Putting yourself out there and meeting people and just going out there and working on it definitely is a great way to make it happen.
So for you, it started when you were 6? Or yeah, 5.
Right, yeah, just drawing
Young.
all the time.
And then
Watching
you figure out.
Transformers cartoons, playing in arcades, you know, just playing with Legos. All that stuff really helped me where I am now. So yeah, if your parents telling you video games has no benefit, they're wrong.
And you?
Well, I started dancing when I was 8 years old, and I got a lot of support from my parents, which I'm very lucky for. But I kind of followed the same steps as everyone else. I was in high school, then I went to CEGEP, then university. But I started to realize that I didn't like being in school. I was studying psychology in CEGEP, and it was just not my thing. And I noticed that like I was dancing every night, and it just made me feel good. So I think what made me decide that this was for me was really based off feeling. Like I just stopped doing the things that I didn't like to do and then really focused on what made me feel good. And I mean, I'm coaching now all the time. I dance whenever I have the chance. I take gigs, I do shows, and I'm happy. And I mean, it's possible. Just keep that in mind.
Cool.
For myself, I first realized that I would be suited for the performing arts when I started to take public speaking classes in high school because I had total stage fright, deathly afraid of speaking in front of anybody ever. So it was something I had to get over. So taking public speaking classes really helped that along, and it opened up the door to experience theater, which for me was like a revelation. I was like, this is what I meant to do. Before that, I was doing math, science, all of this stuff, but I had no passion for it. When I found the stage, that's when I sort of came alive. That's where I found what I was meant to be doing. So, you know, anything can really trigger it for you when you're young. Like for me, a public speaking class, right? Like was what led me to believe like, hey, I can stand up in front of people and get my ideas across and make them laugh at the same time. So that's what got me into the arts.
Yeah. I think it's important when you know your passion, it's one thing, but pursuing it is another, right? And sometimes we tackle between, okay, you know, maybe I should, you know, stay in school and do what my parents wants me to do, and then, you know, pursue my passion in the back. So what was that risk that you took? Like, what could you tell these students today? Yes, you have your passion, but how do you make that move to go for it? Because I think that's what the scary part is sometimes. You want to go, Lateef? We'll break it up. Yeah, we'll mix it up.
Switch it up. For me, fortunately, I had the support. Like since I was drawing, since I was a kid, my parents clearly saw that I was interested in that. So the support was there. You know, I went to school, I went into high school, and then when I went to Dawson, I took creative arts. And then after that, I didn't bother going to college because I had a dream to start my own comic book company. When that didn't really work, I started going into freelancing. And then I went back to school in 2007 in illustration and design, which is a program that's more concentrated on art. And that allowed me to gain new skills that I apply to my work today. But no, in relation to what you're saying, I think it's important to it's always good to have a plan B. That's another thing that my parents taught me. Is like, and not that I have one, but you know, it's important. Like for example, like you'll have a musician that pursues music, but they have a background in law, or they have a background in business or computers. Like having a background in something that's solid is always a good backup. And if you pursue it, if you pursue your dream and you have that other skill as well, that could also help you. If you have a background in business, then that's great if you go into any arts, because as an artist, you really should understand business, as I'm sure you will all agree. That you can really lose a lot of money or not understand the industry properly if you don't understand the business side of things. So I think it's great to have a plan B. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to pursue your passion and believe in yourself. I think that's another thing that, you know, you might have a lot of people that doubt you, but if you believe in what you want to do and what you believe that you can make, just focus on that. I can't stress that enough.
Okay, cool.
I totally agree. I feel like the whole believing in yourself part is still something that I'm working through, and I think that it's an ongoing challenge in my life. It's just because we have moments when we doubt ourselves, and especially when you're growing, you're going to be meeting zones that aren't so comfortable and learning new things about yourself, and it doesn't always feel easy. But if you just keep at it, sometimes what would I say? I think that, like you said, the most important part is to follow that feeling. You know, that's going to guide you to the next step. Like, we can have a plan and set some goals. That's cool. It's practical to have something very specific to move towards, but it's also, we don't know how it's all going to happen unless you're a psychic and you know every step of the way, and even then there's always a new way for the story to happen. And it's having a goal, but letting go as much as you can of the expectations of the outcome. So it's like you have an idea of what it looks like, but you let it happen the way it's supposed to. I don't know, that sounds a little vague, but that's,
No,
you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So
You're going with your gut.
yeah, that's it. You have, like, in my life, it's been a lot about following my gut and allowing myself to take risks, do that thing that I'm a little afraid of, just allow myself to dab into it. Like, I was working on this show called 19-2. It's Emmy nominated, it won 3 Canadian Screen Awards, and it's the kind of show that as an actor, years ago, I was like, oh my God, I would love to be a part of a project like that. And so when my agent called me to get so I could go do the audition, I was over the moon, I was excited, but then right before the audition, I got very nervous, and I started telling myself, because we all have that voice in our head sometimes that's like, no, you can't do it, you know, like, it's not for you. You want it, but you know you're not ready for it. Cool. And I almost didn't go to that audition because I was like, yeah, I'll just wait it out for the next time, you know. And then I was like, you know what, I asked for this, I don't know if I'm gonna get it, but I'm still gonna show up, you know. And that's what I would say is a motto that's very important throughout your path, because we're all gonna have different paths, but show up. You know, if you're called to do something, show up for it. Just show up. And what happened is I went to the audition thinking, I'm not going to get it, you know, but at least I'll try. And then they called me. They're like, oh, you have a callback. You're up against 2 other girls for the part. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get it, but it's still cool that I made it here. And then they're like, you're starting police training on Monday. I was like, okay, what the heck, you know? And then so I spent 4 months filming with an amazing crew of actors and directors, and just like, it was an amazing experience that I almost didn't show up for, you know? So just to say that believing in yourself, even when it's, especially in those moments when it feels the toughest, just be gentle with yourself and be your #1 fan, and it's gonna help.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of to speak more on that, after Cégep, I was like, what the heck do I want to do with my life? Do I want to go back to school? Do I want to dance? And then I figured out this program at Concordia, and there was 1 day left to apply. And I was sitting in front of my screen, I'm like, am I going to do this, or am I not going to do this? And then I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this. I closed my laptop, and I was like, I'm going to dance. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take time off, and I'm going to dance. And the second I did that, when I put my heart in it, and like I closed off everything else and just focused all my energy on the one thing that I really like to do, all of these doors started opening for me. And I straight up booked a gig on America's Best Dance Crew, like, right away. And I was like, wow, I'm so happy that I listened to myself and was like, this is what people want me to do, but this is what I want to do. And I was really happy that I chose the other route.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
I guess just to wrap that off, like, you know, for me, I only really started getting into theater in high school, which is kind of late for some people. And not just that, but like also dance and musical performance. So like for somebody who wants to start dancing that later in life, it's a little bit harder to catch up to everybody else. So my advice and my kind of view on that is be open to things that come your way. Like if it comes your way, just because it's not necessarily your thing at the moment, give it a try. Like, why not? It may open the doors to find that passion, to help you make a decision of where you want to go. Like, that was it for me. It just sort of dropped there, and I said, why not? Let's give it a try.
Yeah, and sometimes it helps, like, when you get a taste of what you don't want, you're like, oh, nope, not for me. I'm going to go this way now. So those moments, too, are very important.
Yeah. I think there's lessons in sometimes hearing no. You know, like sometimes you want something so bad and then you don't get it, and then you're so upset, you think it's the end of the world, and then you end up learning from that no, and you actually thank God that it actually worked out that it was a no. So tell us a story about, or a situation of a no that you got that ended up being constructive for your life. Because I think we should prepare ourselves for those no's, right?
Well,
Not everything's going to be a yes.
As somebody who's a performer who's auditioned many, many, many times over the years, like I've heard no a lot. Like you're gonna hear no a lot. You're gonna get rejected. It's a fact of life. In any aspect of life, people are gonna turn you down. They're gonna say no. They're gonna say try again. And you just got to stick to it. Like it's everything is a learning experience. You can grow from everything, and a rejection is just feedback.
Yeah.
It's just somebody telling you, not maybe this time or this way, but don't give up. There's always another way to go at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that hearing no is kind of a detour in the right direction. Like sometimes you want it so bad and then you don't get it, but it's like beneficial because maybe there's something else you need to do before you get to that point, or you're going to meet someone else who's going to offer you something better. Like don't be too focused on the outcome and don't try to control it too much. Just stay open and like promise you there's a lot of stuff out there for you if you're just like open-minded.
Cool.
An example for me was I entered into a contest for young entrepreneurs, people that want to start their own business. It was a contest to win tickets to go to this event called C2. It's this huge business event. It's networking. They have all this crazy architecture and music and all these really interesting installations. And it was a place I really wanted to go to. So I applied for this, and I didn't win. I got an email saying, "Hey, sorry, you weren't selected." And yeah, I was disappointed. But what I did is I wrote them back. I said, "Hey, thank you for telling me that I didn't get in. This is what my company is about. This is what I do. This is what I'm interested in. If there are any other things happening, please let me know." So I didn't approach this as like, I didn't approach this with anger. I reached out to them and said, "Okay, I didn't get in. This is who I am. Let me know if there's any other things coming up." So they know who I am. So they know I'm in the fight. I'm still working on stuff. And they wrote me back saying, "Hey, you know what? There's this guy who wants to sponsor you to go to the next event. He's going to pay for your ticket. And this event was really expensive." So I was like, "Dang, okay." But he believed in what I was doing. He said, "Hey, this man wants to sponsor you." And just me writing them back and telling them who I was, and taking that no and saying, "Okay, this is an opportunity for me to make a connection," that opened up something that I didn't expect. So I think every lesson, every no or every failure shouldn't be a failure. It should be a lesson, and it should be an opportunity you can use to go somewhere else. You take that and go, "Okay, how can I turn this around? How can I use this to build on and grow from?"
Yeah, for sure. And I would say also that in my case, one thing that I've learned to do is sometimes it's necessary to push forward, and sometimes it's okay to take a step back. Mm-hmm. And I was having a hard time. I was auditioning a lot, and I was being turned down for a lot of parts. But I was starting to get, it was bringing me down. But I was still like, keep at it, keep pushing. But I wasn't feeling good anymore. It wasn't making me happy anymore, and it was difficult for me to make that decision, call my agent and say, "Listen, just for the next few weeks, don't call me about anything. I need to just reconnect with myself." Lucky for me, I have music, so I was able to focus on that a bit more while I was figuring some stuff out. And at first, I felt horrible. As I was taking a break, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm giving up on the dream. Like, what is wrong with me? And why, And then I finally settled into that, and the time that I took away from it, it helped me release that sense of that desperate need to get the part, that, and it allowed me when I went back to it, when I was finally ready, maybe 6 to 7 weeks later, I started booking. I booked my first commercial. I started booking for this show, that show, and it was like, it's just because I took the time to replenish myself with other things, Mm-hmm. So it is good to have different outlets, explore, try different things, and most times we just have to be patient with ourselves, and you may want that thing, but it might not come right now, and it's okay. And it's okay when you're just at that point where you're right on the edge. It's okay to step back instead of pushing at it. Yeah, That's a piece of advice I would give.
Yeah, that's good. How about, being, of color and, breaking into this industry? We know sometimes it's not always easy, and, different backgrounds and ethnicities, and just coming into it. What have you experienced, and how have you overcame that? Because eventually, potentially, it could happen. Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. My descent, my ancestry is French Canadian and Native American. So, as an Indigenous person, in terms of the performance industry, we are very pigeonholed. We can be a Western storefront native, or we can be a powwow dancer. Essentially, that's what people want to see us at as the moment. So what's really, like, a lot of blocks I've come across, especially since I'm mixed race, is that I'm not enough of one and I'm not enough of the other. I fall in between. So a lot of the times I'd go out for the parts that want the native people, and they would say I was too white. Or I would go out to the parts that were for white people, and they'd say, you're too ambiguously something else. Which is really hard.
Put a finger on it, but it's something else.
No, it's something else. And, you would think with a little bit of ambiguity, like, people would want, like, oh, you could play a bunch of things. You could be anybody. But they really sometimes want you to be one thing. And that's really hard to get over. That's really hard to reconcile sometimes as a person of color. So a way around that I found in my life is to go out, make connections with like-minded people who also have sort of problems in the same way, and create our own work. As an artist, it's a very, very important thing for you to motivate yourself to make the parts for yourself that you want, and to give yourself the work that you want. And because people will not give you what you want doesn't mean you have to give up on that. Go out there and make it for yourself, because that way you've got your heart and soul in the project, and that makes it so much better.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's primarily why I started my own company. I want to tell my own stories, and I think it's important as a black person to tell my own story, because when I look at my story as a black man told by people who aren't black, I see the thug, the drug dealer, the pimp, or the sidekick that asks all the stupid questions, or the black guy that gets killed. Jurassic Park, the black guy got killed before the credits started. You know what I'm saying? And then another black guy, so it's a 2 for 1. So it's important for us to tell our own stories. And seeing that, recognizing all the stereotypes in media, I recognize there are other stereotypes. How women are objectified, how gay people are seen as weak and effeminate, how trans people are seen as clowns, how Middle Eastern people are seen as terrorists. So there's all these horrible stereotypes that I recognize, and I realize that when I tell my stories, I also want to make sure that my work is as diverse as possible. Because you look in this room, we grew up in an amazingly diverse culture.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important to have a mix of cultures in your work, and I think it's also important to have a mix of cultures on your team. So I think it's equally important to have women, people of color, gay, straight, trans people in your work, so that when you're doing a story that features different people from cultures outside of your experience, you can bounce ideas off of them and make sure you don't make blunders or mistakes. Because we all have blind spots. We might know a few things about certain cultures, or we might not. We all grow up with biases, and some of them we're unaware of. So I think it's really important to focus on telling your own story, but also be sure to be as diverse as possible when you can. Like, you can have Lord of the Rings. There's no reason why you can't have a black elf or a black dwarf. Oh, but you have dragons and wizards, but you can't have a black dwarf? Why? It's a fantasy story. So there's no real excuse, unless you're doing a historical accurate documentary, there's no real excuse to not have diversity in all the work you have. And it's important to be able to do it from a place of focusing on where you come from.
It's wonderful.
For me, I would say that in theater school, I was told because my last name is very much Burundian, it's Ntibarikure, and it's spelled in a way people are like, oh my god, that's a lot of letters, and I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And one of my teachers told me, you should probably think about shortening your last name. Because casting directors are gonna see it, and they're most likely gonna get intimidated, and it's probably better for you, just so you get seen by people, that you shorten your last name. And at the time it felt a little off, like but I still did it. I printed out my headshot with Aiza Kure on it, and I was like, this is horrible. I felt like I chopped a part of my identity away, and I was happy that this person told me to do that, just so I realized that I wasn't gonna do it, So that's one thing that happened. I'm petite. A lot of people tell, I was told, yeah, you're gonna be typecast, which happens. I play a lot of younger people, but I've also played a variety of interesting characters, from old to grown women to, there are all these like you're saying, we're being pigeonholed into certain categories, and I feel like I've been told, can you be just a little more, black? And I'm like, what does that mean? Do you mean like, is that what do you mean? I'm not, and I think that it's important to, keep pushing against those standards that people are trying to impose on you. And I feel like in the industry I've always kept an open and positive mind. There are unfortunately still some certain hurdles we have to go through. As an actor, when I go on set, I still have to bring my makeup with me because we don't know. Sometimes they don't have the proper shade, and you go up on set looking orange. It's not cool. I wish it were, I wish it were otherwise, but that's a reality. It happens sometimes. Not everywhere, but that's something that still happens. And also, my hair is an issue because I love to change my hair all the time, and some people want it natural, some people want braids, and I'm still figuring that one out. So that's some of the things. It's very superficial. It's very much about my look. But besides that, I feel like like you're talking about, the stories that I get to tell because of this vast amount of culture that I have access to. It's really exciting, and there are companies like Black Theater Workshop that I've gotten involved with that are very big on casting multi-ethnic people, like just from all over the world. So I would say getting involved, like you said, with people who are like-minded, who are open, who do blind casting. So blind casting meaning it's not, Sally is white. It's Sally is a human. Is she white? Is she black? Is she, it doesn't matter. When you get to do projects like that, it's very fulfilling. Yeah, so.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like for me, I was always dancing around people that were very diverse, and they were open to diversity, so that was cool. But I struggled a lot because I'm tall and I'm skinny and lanky. So in the dance industry, a lot of the girls that I was dancing with were a little bit shorter than me. They were curvier, and I mean, I didn't look like I fit in. So I felt like that was something that I struggled with a lot. And if I would go to an audition and the artist was 5'2", there was no way I was getting chosen. I'm 5'7". So that was something that I struggled with a lot. And at a certain point, right now, I'm working more behind the scenes. So I decided, you know what, I don't want to get told no because I'm too tall. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm I'm going to actually start coaching and teaching so that I can teach my students, just do you, you're good the way you are, no matter what your differences are, whatever you like, it doesn't matter. You'll figure it out for yourself. And so, yeah.
I think it's so interesting that we all go through different, hurdles, and the fact that we're sitting here today and being able to share our story is so important. And I think the message that we definitely want everyone to hear today is that, sometimes you be typecast, sometimes you're going to be told no, sometimes you have to create your own stuff. You want black dwarfs, you know what I mean? But it's just so important to just not stop right there. I'm a life coach. Where I life coach a lot of young women to empower them, and I've always tell women to make sure that no is not the final answer, and to make sure that you go for over and above. If you have to create your own business, create your own business. You know what I mean? There's so many younger people that's doing that right now. Create your own production, create your own video. Whatever it is that you want to do, just definitely pursue that. What would you guys say to your younger self? What grade are you guys in? 10. 10? Oh, 7. Okay, so we have a mix. Okay. So what would you say to your high school self? Let's just, recap that.
Oh, man.
I got one.
Yeah, please.
Okay, yeah. So when I was in high school, I cared a lot. I cared a lot about what my friends thought, what just people in general. And I feel like I had not the best high school experience because I cared so much. I wish I was just more myself. And I wish I was able to say no. Actually, I was able to say no, but I chose not to. So, if my friends were like, okay, we're going to skip school and we're going to go to the Delpeche or whatever you guys do, I don't know. And then I'd be like, okay, but in my head, I'm like, I don't want to skip school. I want to be in class. I don't know, I want to be there. And then I'd still do it, and then I'd feel like crap. So I think, just be yourself, and who cares? If you don't want to do something, do not do it. Saying no feels amazing. Say no.
And to add on to that, I would say, like, I would tell myself, don't try to live up to anybody else's expectations. Like, your parents have a path for you. That's not necessarily your path. I'm not saying, you know, rebel against your parents and like
No,
go nuts.
we're not saying that.
But I'm saying, you know, find what your passion is, find what you like, you know, find your way, and then go with it. People will eventually warm up to that. They'll fall in line. You know, my parents wanted me to be a doctor, a lawyer, one of the big ones, but I ended up as an artist instead. And it took them a long time to warm up to that. I mean, I had to fight for that at home, you know. They always wanted me to be money and successful, and like, we fought hard so that you would have a better life, and you want to throw it away by being an actor? So it was like, so it was a lot of resistance. But, you know, once they saw that it was what I loved, what my passion was, they had to give in. They had to, you know, agree that this was my life, this is what I was doing. And you're going to get resistance like that from people throughout your entire life. So, you know, be strong to who you are.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, I was that black kid who liked heavy metal in high school. I was like a rarity, you know, and I got picked on for that, you know, like I was the outsider, I was the geek, I was the nerdy guy. There were a couple other nerdy guys, but I was really an outsider, and I was picked on. And now I'm realizing that you're not alone. You're not the only one. If you feel you're isolated and that you're weird or you're strange or everyone thinks that you're totally different, you are, and that's awesome. Be you. Take that, embrace that. You are awesome and you are powerful, and you are not alone. There are other people out there that you can connect with, and if there aren't other people, make your own group. You know, if you can't find where you belong, make where you belong. Because you have so much strength and power and creativity, and you have so much to offer the world, and don't be shy of that.
So good. I mean, everything they said, I would say, my younger self, I would say, don't worry so much. Don't worry so much. It's gonna be fine. You're doing fine. It's okay. You know. I feel like there was. In the midst of trying to please everyone and like making sure that I'm doing the right thing at all times, I feel like I gave myself levels of stress I didn't have to go through. You know, ultimately we're all doing our best, you know, and if every day you take that little step, you're doing something that you enjoy, every day you're being kind, you've been kind to someone, you're being kind to yourself, and don't worry so much about connecting the dots. You know, we think, for me anyways, it's been like, okay, if I do this, is this gonna lead to that? And then that gonna lead to this, and I hope that's what happens. And it's like, now I look back and I'm like, the dots were connected. I didn't have to, I wasn't there being like, this is gonna happen like that. There's so many miraculous moments that have happened in my life, and I look back and I'm like, wow. And it only took me taking that one step, and then one after, and the one after, and trusting myself. So I would say trust yourselves. And don't worry so much about connecting the dots, because they will connect. It might not make complete sense right now, but when you'll look back, you'll be like, oh, this led to that led to this, that led to that, and man, I could be having more fun right now, just enjoying the present moment. Yeah.
If I just want to add to that, yeah, exactly. It's like, I've always found, and it's sometimes because you sometimes forget it, but when you force something, it doesn't work. It does not work. That doesn't mean, I don't mean making an effort. I mean when you force something, when you want something so bad and you focus all your energy on it in the wrong way, it doesn't work. When you let things flow and when they're natural and when you let things go, they happen. Yeah. You know? If something's not working out and you're getting a certain resistance to it, let it go. Yeah. You know? And it's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes. You know, it's I know. I mean, when I went to school, it was all about, you know, if you fail, you're a loser. If you don't get this grade, you fail. If you have to you know, redo your year, it's not the end of your life. You might feel that way, or your friends go ahead a grade. It's not the end. You're really young. You have plenty of time to catch up. There's nothing to worry about. Yeah. So don't worry about failing. Most of us have failed more than we succeeded, but we've succeeded because we failed. So I can't stress that enough.
But we're not stressing to fail, y'all, because you know, it's important to pass, right?
Yeah, exactly. But you know
but
what
yes,
I mean.
I completely
Yeah.
To just recap to what you guys are saying, I was always someone that was like that control freak that always needed to know what was next. You know, when I finished high school, I was in college. Okay, I need to finish college in 2 years, even though I can finish in 3. But no, it got to be 2 years. Then I got to university. Okay, it's 3 years to finish university. I got to be done because by 25 I need to have 3 kids. I need to be married. I need to have the house, the dog, and everything. And then when I look back, I wish I could go back to college, actually. I wish I could go back to university and just take my time. You know, just join those clubs, you know, that they have. You know, I didn't have time to do none of that, you know what I mean? Like, I was so focused on just getting to the next thing that, you know, you end up losing out. And I mean, I could always go back to university, but I'm talking about as a young person, I wish that I just took my time. Take your time. You know what I mean? So we talk about talking to our parents about our passion. So I know that, you know, when I went to my grandmother, I was raised by my grandmother, so there's certain things that you had to do, and anyone from the Caribbean know that grandmothers are strict. And there's certain things to follow. How was the conversation with your parents? Like, if there's anybody here that wants to talk to their parents about going to arts and not going to medicine, for example, how would you equip these wonderful people with that?
I mean, I was always so clear about what it is I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be an actor. I knew I wanted to sing. And my dad was there. He was always, I'd say that I was lucky to have the freedom. Like, my family's always been there, but kind of on the outskirts, enough for me to just go on my path and try stuff and fall and turn around and be like, ow, I hurt myself. And they're like, keep going, you know? And I told my dad I was going into theater after I got accepted, like after I auditioned. He was like, so what are you studying? And I'm like, theater. And he was like, you're gonna be an actor. I was like, yes I will. And he's like, okay, you know? And I feel very lucky because I wasn't put that, like, there wasn't that sense of, well, you need to be that person, you need to be a doctor, you need to do. Years later, he told me, and I could feel it a bit, the resistance, like, he would tell me, like, are you done with your arts and crafts? I'm like, it's my career, Dad. This is what I do. It's not like, c'est pas du bricolage, you know? So there was that sense of, like, a little bit of fear on my parents' part, but because I was so gung-ho about doing it, there was no one could tell me anything about it. Like, I went to, when you sign up for the program you want to go into in Cégep, there's usually two little boxes, and you check the first one, you say, this is my first choice, and then there's the second choice. And I didn't write anything in that second box. I just wrote theater, that was it, put it in, and it was like this blind faith and sense of, like, that's what I'm doing next. And then my sister was like, so what's your second choice? I'm like, I don't have a second choice. And she was like, but what if you don't get into the program? You're just not going to go to school?
Yep.
And in that moment, I hadn't even thought about it. I was like, what? I didn't even, you know? And then finally, when I auditioned, I found out I got in. But it's only in the program that I realized there were over 300 people that I had auditioned, and only 30 of them were taken. And I happened to be one of them. Ooh. So I think that sense of, like, blind confidence in what it is that I wanted really helped for everyone to just be like, there's nothing I can do about this. This is what she wants, you know? So that's how it was for me.
Nice.
So my parents were very supportive of me being a dancer, but I mean, maybe some of you can maybe some of you can relate with me. My parents are very strict. Yes, they were super supportive when I was dancing, like, close to home. But when I was like, I want to go to LA, I want to go to Toronto, I want to move here, I want to go there, they were like, no, there's no way you're doing that. And then I kind of had the same attitude as her, and my parents know that I'm very stubborn, and if I want something, I have to have it. So, and I'm going to fight for it no matter what. So same for her, like, if you're so set on it, like, people won't even really try to, like, they'll try, but they'll fail to, like, put you down. So just keep going.
I also come from a very strict family, very Catholic upbringing, very by the book kind of people, and I come from a small community. I come from a native reserve where You know everyone. Everyone knows you. Everyone knows your business. To a certain extent, you're probably related to most of the people in town. It's a small town. So not only do you have the expectations of your family immediately, your mom, your dad, your siblings on you, but you have the expectations of the community on you. So I always did really well in sciences and really well in math. It wasn't something I was into, but it was something that I was good at and was easy, so I didn't have to try very hard. And because of this, everybody had really great expectations that I was going to be a great doctor or like an amazing lawyer or a scientist or something like that. So for me, it was really difficult to break out of that mold and say, like, this is not for me. Even though it's something I can do, it's not something that's going to make me happy in my life. And it was really about impressing upon my family, my people, that this is not the path for me. This over here is going to be the path for me, and I need your support on that.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a lot of conversations with a lot of people, a lot of convincing people that this is what I could do. And I'm not very proud of this, but to a certain extent, a little bit of deception when it comes to your parents. Not saying that to completely deceive them, but hey, mom wants a backup plan, give mom a backup plan. You may never go to that backup plan,
But you have it.
but you've got it. She wants the play-by-play, you got it. Otherwise, like, you pursue with all your might and, like, work on convincing those people. You know, the people who love you in your life want you to be happy ultimately.
Yeah.
That's it.
And if your path to happiness isn't the one that they've laid out for you, there's a middle ground or a way to convince someone.
Yeah. Cool. You want to add something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also it's important to try different things. Like, you know, say, you know what, I want to do this. And your parents say, well, you did karate last year. I did. I tried it. I didn't like it. I want to try this now. And I think it's important that, like, you know, you might feel you have a passion for something, and after 2-3 years it doesn't work out. Okay, hey, you know what? I tried it. I know something about this. Now I know what about it I like and don't like. Now I know what I really want to do. And you try this thing. Oh, well, I you know, now I want to play piano. And you try that for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever. And then you go, that's not really my thing. And you try something else. You're getting all these skills. You're meeting new people. You're trying new experiences. You're going to different places. And you're building a life of experience. And as I said before, all these different experiences feed into whatever you're going to go into next.
Yeah.
You know, like, I draw, I dance, I beatbox, I write, I cosplay, I do all these different things, and they all help each other out. And for me, it's great because if I'm bored of one thing, I can go to something else. So I think it's important to not worry about whether you'll stick to something or not. I think it's more important that you tried something, and then then you'll know whether or not you really like it, and you can go on to something else.
Yeah. So don't pigeonhole yourself.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Cool. Thank you so much.
Question why?